So when it comes to high fees, I know that it was always my surprise when I first came into working with architects is that you guys weren't as well paid as everybody thinks you are. And if I asked you now, just inside your head, how good are you as an architect? If you've got the best, you've got the worst, where would you fit on that spectrum, right? You don't have to type it in, but just in your head, where do you fit? And I'm going to say, let's say you say I'm a 7 or an 8. Okay, that's cool. Then I'll say on a spectrum of 0 to 10, where are you in terms of the income you're earning? 10 would be dream projects. 0 would be terrible projects. Where on that spectrum would you be? Sorry, and not projects, but you do it for projects and you can do it for fees. So how good are your projects and how good are your fees? So what I find is a lot of architects rate themselves, their fees, somewhere around 4 on average, 4 or 5 if they're lucky. Not many say I'm a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 architect and I'm charging 7 or 8 out of 10 fees. There's usually a bit of a disconnect. So some of these things we're going to go through today will give you some insights. I mean, we've got 30 minutes and I could spend all day on this, but these will give you insights on maybe what you're missing, right? So a lot of, there's Sun Tzu, who was the Chinese general philosopher and philosopher, said every battle is won or lost before it's ever fought. Meaning the way you set yourself up for battle, or in our case, business, winning projects, what you do before you even turn up is pretty important, right? And these laws really, if you harness these laws, you'll find that you are able to charge higher fees, and you just stack the odds in your favor. You're swimming with the current. Okay. All right. So the first law is around high value clients. Some of these you'd say, well, they're pretty self-evident. Obviously, I have to have high value clients, but even though you'd say, well, that's common sense, most of you either haven't thought of that. You must have thought of it, but you're not doing it. Okay. Now I know having worked with architects for the past 10 years that, well, let me tell you a quick story first. A friend of mine, we went to this marketing conference in St. Louis, and it was a wee bit of a rough neighborhood, the hotel we were staying in. And outside the window one morning, there was a noise, and it sounded like someone was being mugged, right? And there's a guy saying, give me your wallet, give me your money. To which the reply from the other man was, man, I ain't got no money. He said, don't give me that. Give me all your money. I need it. And he said, man, you're robbing the wrong guy. I'm homeless. Right? And this, poor mugger, poor guy, he was trying to get money off a homeless man. Now, the metaphor, you need to think about that metaphor a little bit. And while these people may not be homeless, when they have major issues with budget or they're completely unrealistic with budget, I want you to think from this point on as them as effectively, as far as you're concerned, they're a homeless man. They don't have the money and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, I would say, having worked with architects for 10 years, Eric and I, we would have seen, from what I can see, about at least 50% of the projects that come across an architect's desk or the inquiries that come in, they're not all homeless people, but 50% of them should be turned away. They are either not good people, not worth working with. They have unrealistic budgets. Their project is not really something you should or would want to do. Maybe it's too small or maybe it's something else. You should be accepting only less than half. Now, the problem with that is you need more deal flow. You need more people coming through the door so that you can turn half of them away. But that's a fact, right? Second one is we know that in terms of markets, in terms of high value clients, we know the 80-20, the Pareto principle, 80-20 principle tells us that 20% of the inputs generate 80% of the results. And it's 80-20 applies very much in the marketing world. So whatever market you want to go into, 20% of that market will be high value and 80% will be low value, right? It's just how the universe is set up, right? And so, one of the things I look to do with people is steer them, first get them to work out who is the 20%. It depends on the market you're in and depends on how you define the 80-20. But you do need to go through a process of defining what the 80-20 is for you and then targeting the top 20% for you, right? Obviously, money will be one of those aspects, but it's not necessarily the only one. It could be that they're willing to spend money. Some people have money, not willing to spend it. Some people just don't have the money, right? And ideally, you're going into a situation with these. One of the things that makes these people high-value clients is they see your value, all right? So we're going to move on from high-value clients. It's kind of obvious, but when you dig below the surface, you can see that there are certain things that can and should be done which aren't being done. All right, so have a think about law number 1. You've got to be focused on high-value clients. Law number 2, now this is an interesting one. This is not so obvious. You've got to be delivering a high-value result to a high-value client. Okay, when you've got a high-value client, yeah, maybe you'll make some money, maybe not. Not all high-value clients necessarily want to spend money if they don't see a difference. Now, you've got to be delivering a high-value result. What do I mean by that? Well, what's the high-value result an architect delivers? Well, they get a building built. Yep, sure. But remember the 80-20 principle. Not all, outcomes are the same. So what I would suggest you consider when you're looking for high-value results is, well, I'll give you some examples. Difficult to get permits would be an example of a high-value result. Someone who was struggling to get a permit, they own an expensive piece of land. They probably spent money on engineers and geotech and other people to get things to a certain point, and they're struggling to get a permit. They are less price resistant or fee resistant than someone who has an easy ride, right? Kind of obvious. In fact, any problem, anyone who has an expensive problem, in fact, I'm going to put that in there. Anyone who has an expensive problem is unresistant to higher fees, right? They can, they're in the case where they cannot afford not to. I teach a thing called return on design, which is primarily about working out, high value results for people. And I want you to think back, actually just do this little exercise where you think back and you think of all the, either you have helped a client make a lot of money or you've helped a client save a lot of money, right? And think about those situations where you've done that. You've either made them a lot of money or saved them a lot of money. Now, you're in the business as an architect of often making people money or saving people money. You've made a lot of millionaires, right? A lot of people have made a lot of money based on your skill, knowledge, and experience. And you've delivered high value results, but you haven't, it's not how you win your new projects. You don't talk about these things. So it's a good idea to do a bit of an audit on all the high value results that you have achieved and record them, right? For yourself, for your own confidence, because it'll help with your mindset over here, but also so that you've got stories to tell, okay? So high value. Okay, so let's say you've got a high value client. You have some high value results, which I tell you another thing, it really does pay to specialize in those high value results. So once you've worked out what is your high value results for the high value clients, you kind of specialize in that. Or at least you have a specialist message that sort of sends the signal out to those people that result is gettable. Okay. Next one, law number 3. Just going to check with time because I do want to stick to time. Okay, law number 3 is it's not enough to have a high value client. Sometimes you just need a high value client, high value result, you tell them, but you do need a high value process. You'll find with anyone selling really expensive stuff that seldom do they use the standard procedure for selling their stuff. right? They usually have their own unique way of selling their stuff, because if you just use the same way of selling your stuff that everybody else does, then you are going to look like everybody else. And as we know, most architects, I think, under earn and undercharge, right? So let's say we're looking to move you into the top, not 9 or 10 in the fee bracket. We can't have you selling like everybody else. So we talked about Sun Tzu, having that preparation. Now, have a think about some companies that charge a premium. Now, timeshare, people selling timeshare, they don't sell like normal properties. They lure you. It's different. It's not particularly, I don't like their method, but it is effective. They get you off away. They incentivize you to come on a bus trip. You kind of can't get back. You have to go watch the videos. You have to go through their process. Then you meet with a salesperson. Then if you say no, you meet with the second salesperson. It goes like that. Now, I don't like that particular approach, but the point is it's different and it does work, right? They take people away from their normal location. Another one would be an Apple store, where they take you to a different location. They take you to their own shop and they put you in their own environment. Everything about an Apple store is pretty much different to a normal computer store, right? The sales process is different. When you walk in, someone greets you with a tablet and takes your name and contact details and really just reserves an appointment with you. Well, that's not how you buy things in a normal shop. Okay, so they've changed the selling process. First class would be the same. When you're flying first class, it cannot be the same process and system as everyone else, right? And so this whole, you've got to create a high value process which is different to a normal process if you're going to charge high fees.